Hey everybody, it's Matthew of Mr. Domestic. In this video, I'm going to share with you how to sew foundation paper piecing. This is going to be the basics, getting you from the beginning to the end, yanking out that paper so that you know all of my tips and tricks. So if that is what you're here for and you're ready to learn this amazing technique, then before we get into the content, make sure to give this video a thumbs up anytime you're enjoying it, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Now let's get ready to have some fun together. So this video, I'm going to show you how to do the basics of foundation paper piecing. Essentially, I'm going to get you through one portion of a total block, and there will be a sample linked in the description here and on the blog post that you can work with that will look exactly like what I'm sewing here. So I do have a video on what my favorite notions are, but these are all of the things that I will need. I have my tweezers. I don't really need them till the end. I have a light box in the back. Don't really need that necessarily. I'll show you briefly how to use it. My seam roller. I have my Olfa cutter and cutting mat, some sew line glue, and my add a quarter ruler. And then I have this, which is a section of a Love is Love pillow. And this is part of the rainbow heart in the center. So this is one section. And then this is what the block is going to look like that you can play with, and it would be pretty on its own. So the stitch length that you're going to stitch with is shorter than standard. I stitch at 1.6. Any smaller and it's virtually impossible to unpick if you have to. So that's as short as I will go, but you definitely want to do shorter than standard because then it makes it easier to perforate and remove the paper. And this is Sharon Secret foundation paper that I'm using here. As you can see, this is the back. This is the front here. And one additional thing, and this is kind of like a mind challenge, is that what you sew is going to be the opposite of what the block looks like right side up, because the fabric essentially is going to be on the back. So I can show you, let me show you this right here. So I've done the other sections of the heart, right? So this is it. I'm gonna get them in order. No, that's the, which way? See, even I'm confused here. So this is the right side of the paper once you've printed it out up, right? But the front where the fabric is on the back is going to be flipped over like that. And this is going to take you a moment to wrap your brain around. And this is the biggest challenge, people realizing that. And that's what I love about using this Sharon Secret foundation paper, because you can see the lines perfectly when the front is flipped over on the back. So this is the section that I am going to sew. I have my fabric ready. I have my cutter ready, my seam roller, and my glue. So with these, you are going to start, let me flip it over so you can see it this way. You're going to start 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're just going to stitch right on those stitch lines there. And then 5 is the last. Sometimes it's numbers, sometimes it's letters. Here it is numbers. So for the first one, that's the only section that I use the glue on. And that is what I do. And the very first one is this one. And I've trimmed this. You're going to leave 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I try to just push this about 1/4 inch, let the glue do its work so that I don't have to mess with it. And then you will take the next color right here and just put it right on top of that. And this is where the light box comes in handy. And this is going to do tricks on my camera, I'm aware. But I just want to show you what the light box would do. Okay, let me fix this right again. See, this would help you see where the 1/4 inch is, right there, if you weren't sure. And then this right here, let's say you had like just an itty bitty scrap of fabric left and you wanted to make sure that it would fit in this section. You could use the light box just to do it like that. And you can see right here that it's big enough. And this is the only reason that I would see needing to use a light box for a solid fabric. professi cutting, it's different, and that will be in a different video. So for now, I've got this ready. I'm gonna take it over to my sewing machine. And we are off. And I start probably about 1/8 of an inch behind where the stitch line is. This is the seam allowance, and then these are the stitch lines. So boom, 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 boom. And I just go a little bit further beyond that line and trim it. See, boom. And I'll just go ahead and check to see if this is 1/4 of an inch. It's close enough to where I wouldn't normally trim it, but this is how this ruler works. There is like a 1/4 inch lip right there, and it trims off all of the excess. And one other thing that I do after I seam rule it, before I move on to the next one, let me show you. So this tool right here by Violet Craft is amazing. It eliminates having to go to the iron for every one of those stitch lines. So now this one is not stitched. See, I'm going to fold this over like this. Once again, use the add a 1/4, and I'm going to go ahead and create that excess 1/4 seam allowance right here for the next one, so that it's a lot easier to line up the next piece of fabric. See, there's no guesswork because I already know where this is. I already know that this piece of fabric is enough. Just line it up right here. Dun, 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 dun. And you are good to go on the sewing machine. Once again, I'm starting about 1/8 of an inch behind where the stitch line should start at a 1.6 length. Continuing on that line. If you get a little off, no big deal. And then, boom. Once again, use the seam roller, and then here. I could not have imagined doing this kind of a block without it being foundation paper pieced. That would be a little bit too much geometry, and I'm a math lover, but that would be too much geometry getting the handles good. So there you go, see? Now it is a 1/4 of an inch. One more piece of the colored rainbow. Da, 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 da. See? And then you flip it over, see? Dun, dun, dun. Sew it once again, about 1/8 of an inch behind. And then the final one, seam roll it again. And then I'm gonna go ahead and trim off the excess here. You know that this is a 1/4 of an inch, so I just have the ridge lined up to the seam line. Do the same here. And then, boom. Fold that over right on that stitch line. Leave a 1/4 of an inch. And then fold it over here. And now I'm going to put this triangle here, and this is actually another place that you can test out the size of it. Because it's a triangle, I'm not quite sure whether it's going to fit. So flip it over to the front, and this is just checking for size, right? And I want to make sure that's going to go up a 1/4 of an inch that way. And boom, it's like I prepared it to fit perfectly. But that's another place in this pattern that you might need the light board to check it. But if you don't have a light board, let me show you another trick. See, I've lined it up to a 1/4 of an inch. I know it's going to work there, and then just flip this over right here. See how I flipped it? And this is where you want it to cover, and you can see the fabric underneath is going to cover it up. So that's a little trick that I learned from Violet Craft. Flip it, see? It's this way, flip it, no guesswork. Then you know it's going to work, and you know that the angle is lined up perfectly. Now I'm going to stitch that bad boy in place. I'll seam roll this, trim it to a square. Here. Ta-da! Now I have all 4 pieces of the heart. that are ready to be stitched together. And I'm going to show you how I stitch one of them. And then I'm probably going to spin the seams here because there's a lot of bulk there. I have a video on spinning the seams that I'll card here. And this is actually a place that I would iron. For the most part, the seam roller does the trick, but this is a place that I want to make sure that it is ready to go and everything is like super duper flat, just to give it that extra crispness here. And this is another one of my favorite things. It's called Flatter. And it smells amazing, and it doesn't work like starch, but it works perfectly, and it's natural ingredients, and it's just lovely here. So I would spray, just lightly spray. It's just a mist here. Water would work the same. And then just like a medium heat, you just want to flatten it. And then if there is any additional excess once you've ironed it, I am using medium steam here. But see how it is just adding that extra bit of crispness that the seam roller missed right here. Steam, steam everywhere. Let me move this wool pad. Oh, it's amazing too. So let me just flip these over. See how it's doing? And as you can see, there's not a lot of excess, and it's unnecessary to trim it off, but that seam roller really did the trick. Now everything is just pretty and ready to stitch. So I am going to stitch the top two together, the bottom two together, and then these together. And as you can see, I didn't remove the paper. You don't remove the paper till the very end. At a minimum, make sure that all of the paper on the perimeter stays intact. And then you remove it. And I'll show you how to remove it also. So this is where I'm trusting the pattern, because I know this pattern is amazing, that the point would work right here. And it is great. It is great here. So I've done that one. Use the seam roller again. Then I'm going to do these right here. Same thing. It's lined up perfectly. Right here. So now let me get the pad again. We're going to do some more ironing. And I am going to show you quickly how I spin the seams. If you want to see an in-depth one, then you can go look for the video on my YouTube channel. And there's some bulk right there with all of those intersections. And see how these are opposite? This one's going this way, this one's going this way. Now I'll flip it. And you can feel where they nest together right here. You can just feel it. It feels like it's meant to go together. And I'll stitch it in the middle. And this is where I'm going to increase the length to 3. Of course, not quite a basting stitch, but it's longer to where if I have to pick it out, I can. And I just want to see how they lay. Ooh, it's perfect. See? Yay, and that's a trick that I've learned too. Anytime that I have to join things together, test it out with a longer stitch, because picking out these shorter stitches is hard. Now I'm ready to stitch the entire thing. Boom, 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 boom. This is such a lovely pattern. Stitch all the way to the end. Just follow that stitch line. And now, boom, that is so cool. And when you spin the seams, you want them to spin, right? So they're gonna spin this way. You might need some snips to snip. See all those seams right there in the center? Without spinning the seams, this would be difficult. Just gotta trim some of those, let it spin. And then this might look a little ratchet right now, but I'll fix it later. And then if you want to see it closer, once again, go to the video. Done. See? Spun seam. Go back to the front. Press it to goodness. And there is the beautiful, beautiful heart. Yay! The final thing that I want to show you is removing the paper. See, most of it comes out great And I'm going to start with the larger one, right? Probably start on the outside. See how it just perforates? Like that, and use a tweezer to get those itty bitties. And then if you pull it, sometimes it'll pop. And then you just remove all of the paper. And I'm not going to do this in real time. I'll fast forward it so you can see it. It out, and as you can see, I've switched to the finer tipped one, and I'm just getting those pieces of paper right here and pulling them out. One other thing I do, and I wish I would have done it here with all of the intersection of the stitches, is after I finish a whole block, I'll remove this 1/4 inch right here on both sides, and then it would have been less bulk. But fortunate for me, since I used the Sharon Secret foundation, once I wash this, it'll be gone because that stuff washes out any excess that's in there. Right there. And then ta-da! Boop, 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 boop. Yay! Let me give it one final press with my iron. And here's my flatter. It's a fine mist. This stuff lasts forever. And just press this. Ooh. This is beautiful. This is going to be a beautiful rainbow heart in the center of my pillow. And boom, there you go. And now you have learned the basics of foundation paper piecing. Yay! Now you are ready to tackle foundation paper piecing. It's really not as difficult as it may seem. The only challenge, even for people who have done it a couple times, is realizing that you are seeing the backwards image when you're sewing as opposed to the front of the pattern. So if you enjoyed this video, got a tip or a trick or a laugh or two, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Keep it positive, y'all. Mr. Domestic out.